Okay, here we are. 10 episodes into a project that I didn't know if it was going to work or not. I told the story in episode 10 with Julie about how the whole project came about, this Jeff Lung show. And first of all, I called it that because I play with a lot of different names, a lot of puns about art and conversation and creativity, and none of it really seemed real to me. It seemed kind of hokey. So I thought, well, if I just call it the Jeff Lung Show, which is my name, then that's just what it is. It's just me talking to somebody. And since that's kind of become what I really love as a consumer of media these days, just people sitting down and talking, I thought that was the perfect way to name it. So that's why it's called the Jeff Lung Show. It's not because I love to hear my own name, it's just because what else was I gonna call it, right? And then how did it come about? Well, as I said, I mentioned this in episode 10 with Julie, but it really started back in June of 25 at a big event at the Artist Gallery, where I was hanging out with artists, talking to them about their art. I had a drink or two, maybe 2 glasses of wine, and I was having a good time, man. It was a lot of fun. I just thought, you know what? This is what I want to do. I just want to spend more time talking to artists about their art. And the one thing that I noticed too is that I wasn't talking about myself. I was genuinely interested in what other people were telling me about their passion, their project. I really enjoy conversations and just the company in general of people who are passionate about what they're doing. So that's how it started. I got it in my head, oh, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And then not long after that, I had a conversation with Julie at the gallery. We were just talking about ways to get more people involved in the art world, in the community that she's created at that gallery there in the Woodlands. And I thought, well, I could do this project. I'm gonna make this happen. I'm just gonna get some cameras and see what we can do. I have a background in media. One of my first jobs was as a cameraman for a television station. I used to run the soundboard too for newscasts. And I was a cameraman for some, what league was it? I was a cameraman for a Illinois Independent Collegiate Baseball League. Not like the highest level ever. Enough that I knew my way around a camera. So I thought, you know what, this is something I'm gonna try to do. So I got a decent camera used off of Facebook Marketplace, of course, and decided to use that for my one shots, and then I would use my phone for the 2-shot, and I could just zoom in on me whenever I needed to. Since the show is not about me, it's about the other person, I could just make it work. So inexpensively, and that's the great thing that we have at our disposal nowadays in modern times, that it doesn't take a whole lot of money to produce something that looks good. So got some cameras, got my tripods together, bought a few lights, got some decent microphones, and just went to town. Said, okay, let's do it. Let's just start talking. And so in the beginning, I wanted to start off talking to my friends, and that's exactly what I did. Episode 1, I started off with my friend Allen Ginsberg, who I know from the Artist Gallery. I also know him from the Art Machine Gallery in Houston. He's one of the best-selling artists there. His work just draws people in. It just sells and sells and sells. He is the true meaning of the art machine, because he's constantly having to create, which is a good thing, a great problem to have, right? And it gave me an opportunity to sit down to just pick his brain about his artwork. We've talked about his art, but I didn't know a lot of the stories. I didn't know about the pain, in his life. I didn't know how much pain and suffering was involved in his works, which are super fun and playful and whimsical and just igniting the imagination. So that was a pretty cool discovery. In fact, I've made a discovery in every episode. Episode 2 with my friend Jennifer Fallbrook, who I playfully practice my German with. It's not very good, but she always plays along with that. She always placates me. Become good friends with her and her husband, Heinz. So that was a fun conversation because, again, I know a lot of the background to her work, but the vast majority of the world doesn't necessarily know it. And it's a great story. I remember the first time I met her and her husband, it was at an art talk that they were giving, or she was giving, about her hydrants project. And I just thought, man, these hydrants, these need to be in a coffee table book. This needs to be a big book that's a centerpiece that people could pull out and look at. I'm still praying for that to happen one of these days. Jennifer, you heard me. Get to work on that. Hopefully I can help with the production of that someday. But yeah, I loved hearing her stories. It's also fun just to see her come out of her shell a little bit. because, English isn't her first language, so she's a little bit shy about that. But after we got rolling, things went pretty well. Episode 3 was my first sit down with someone who I didn't really know very well. I'd met him once, and we were friends on social media. William Bartlett. Out of all the artists I've talked to so far, his work is probably the one I'm most drawn to, just because it is the most like mine, in that it's chaotic and different and weird and tackling different subjects that a lot of people might leave alone. So it was a great opportunity for me to sit down and talk to him about his work, about his past, about his process. I was really blown away to hear that he only works on one artwork at a time. To me, that's insane. I can't imagine just doing one piece, start to finish, but that's what he does, and I think that's really cool, man. And then, off camera too, we got to talk a little bit, and it's just amazing how people get put in your life at a certain time when you really need it, and I really needed to hear from him. We actually witnessed to one another. I told him, we mentioned it a little bit in the interview and the talk about how I had recently come to Christ and changed my life completely, and that resonated with him, and so afterwards, he shared his testimony with me, and I shared my whole testimony with him. It was great. It was really cool, and I'm glad we had that moment, and I'm sure there's going to be many more. In fact, every single sit down that I've had so far has led to me wanting to talk to the person more. So there's going to be that eventually. We're going to talk more, right? I'm not going to stop doing this. Why would I? I'm having fun. Episode 4 was with Patty Gary, and Patty Gary is a friend of mine who I just adore her work. I think she's great. I look up to her. She kills it at the Woodlands Waterway show every year, and I'm just super impressed with that. She takes subjects that are really hard for some people to deal with. She makes you deal with them. And I think that's important. I think that's really cool. It's the people pieces that really get me. I'm excited to see where she continues to go, because she just keeps winning awards. She keeps turning heads. She keeps getting into shows. Good for Patty. I mean, that was a really fun conversation. Speaking of fun, episode 5, Los Cruz. Ay, caramba, how do I describe that conversation? Well, it was really fun. Every time you get around BC and Edna, they are just Captain Funs a lot. Both of them, they're super dynamic, engaging people who are just full of positive energy, and that's precious, man. We gotta really protect those folks. I mentioned this in the talk itself, but I didn't necessarily want to interview them both at the same time. I only have 2 Rode mics, right? I only have 2 mics, because I said, let's do one at a time. First I'll talk to Edna, then I'll talk to BC, or vice versa, or whatever. It didn't matter to me. But BC was like, no, we want to do it together. I was like, man, but that's not how I do things. I want to talk to you individually about your individual art. But he convinced me. He said it's going to be a lot of fun. Don't worry. We'll bring the fun. And I knew he would, because they always do. But I was perplexed, like, how am I going to figure this out microphone-wise? And I just happen to have an old mic that I hadn't used very often. Not very good, but I could plug it into my phone. And so that's why that talk had a little rough sound. I mean, if I could go back and fix it more, I would. I did spend a lot of time trying to fix it. It seems kind of noisy, but I did the best I could, because I was using 2 mics that are native to each other and then one that's on a totally different system, and it was kind of clunky, but it worked out, right? It all worked out. I had a great time, and I can't wait to do it again. We will do that again. We will have another conversation, don't you worry. I feel like they could be good candidates for the most recurring guests, right? I don't like calling it an interview, right? Because it's not really an interview. It's just me sitting down, talking to people I'm interested in about their artwork that I'm interested in. So it's more of a conversation. I tell people before they come in, I got some bullet points that I might want to hit. But if we don't get to them all, that's okay. Who knows where the conversation is going to go? It's just going to start, and we'll see where it goes. That's the sort of media that I like to consume the most. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of just one-on-one people talking about interesting subjects. Interesting people talking about interesting things is really interesting to me. That's the vibe I'm going for. That was the first 5 episodes. Episode 6 was with Eric Kohn, and that was my first sit down with someone who I really didn't know at all. I'd met him one time and we didn't really have much of a conversation. I'd seen his work around, but I didn't associate his work with him. But then when walking around that gallery one day, I was just perplexed by one of his pieces, and I thought, I want to talk to whoever made this. So I asked and realized, oh yeah, I have met Eric one time briefly. Well, let's see if Eric wants to come in. And he did, and it was a great conversation. I really learned a lot. His work, as I told him, reminds me of Magritte, who's one of my favorites. Magritte and Hockney. There's just an outside sense of bizarre that intrigues me about his work. Him as a person too, I found to be very intriguing. He's kind of like the quintessential artist who's like an enigma. I'm not 100% sure where he is other than making really good, interesting art. So it was a fun conversation. I had a great time. But then episode 7, well, this was with Melanie Wade Leslie, who's, when I first moved here to Texas, one of the first people I met in the art world. I love her work, the equine art. She's just a great soul. We talked about this a little bit in our talk too. When I came to Christ, she was one of the very first people to reach out to me. And I do look up to her as a, sister of Christ. Just a good leader for what it is to be a good person. Just a genuine, all-around great person. I was happy to have that conversation. I told her after I was done, I think this is the best one I've done yet. I thought it was solid. I love that talk. I've gone back and watched it a couple times now. And her work is great. All these artists, their work is amazing, so you should go and support them. Go to their social medias, buy their work, wherever you can, support them. Episode 8, Shauna Martin. This is the first time that I filmed one of these in a place outside of the Ardest Gallery. It started in the Ardest Gallery, and that's where all of them have been filmed so far, because that's really where I've met most of these people in that community that Julie's created. Shauna was one of them, but Shauna just happens to have her own studio in Sawyer Yards in Houston. I have my work currently at the Art Machine Gallery in Houston as well, so it was just easy for me to, after one day, hop over to her studio, set up some lights, camera, and all that, sit down and have a talk, and it was really cool. I had a great time. Her work is really intriguing. I love the dreamlike aspect to it. There's a lot of geometry involved. She uses a lot of nature. I was intrigued by her artist statement, epigenetics, and metaphysics, yes. I couldn't wait to talk to her about that. I'm not sure I got a clear idea of what either one of them is afterwards, but when I see her art, if I can associate that with those two terms, I got you. I know what it is. It was fun, and Shauna's been through a lot. She mentioned a little bit in our talk. She's been through a lot, and so you can really see through her vulnerability and her being real, her rawness, how she manifests it into her artwork. Takes something that a lot of people would see as bad, turn it into good. I had tips to Shauna on that one. Episode 9, Jimmy Sheely. Jimmy I've known here, one of the first artists I met when I moved to Texas. As I mentioned in that episode, I've been intrigued by his pieces, the way he just captures special moments in time like nobody else. And I came to that conversation with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all these artworks that I wanted to know the stories behind, because I'd seen these pieces so often, but I didn't know the stories behind them. So it was really a cool treat for me. Just as an art lover myself, I felt like I'm getting a special treatment here. I get to know all the stories behind the pieces one-on-one, and then part of that joy is being able to share it back to you. I really pride myself in that. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed all the stories behind the pieces. That's what keeps me coming back. I have a lot of stories to share of people who I adore and like their work and want to support. Please stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more. Episode 10, finally got to sit down with Julie. I kind of had it planned out. I figured after I got a few done, because I'd heard most shows or podcasts or whatever don't last past 3 episodes. I was like, well, let me get past 3 and then 5, 6, 7, whatever. When we get to 10, I think that'll be a good time to sit down with the person who really planted the seed in my head for this project. So I'd been writing her a couple weeks prior, like, hey, I really want to sit down and talk with you. And she was willing to do it. I'm really glad she did. She was the first non-artist. But as far as non-artists go, she knows a whole lot about art. It's been a part of her life forever. The conversation we had really shined a great light on the gallery and what it does, and how it's made people's lives better through art, which I think is the whole point. I just really get energized when I start talking about art. And again, not mine, but other people's. I liked spending time with people who are passionate about what they're doing. 10 episodes in, am I gonna stop? Heck no. I already got 3 more scheduled, and I got lots of people coming up down the line. I can't wait. There's so many artists I want to talk to, and there's so many stories I want to hear and share. I thank you for watching, supporting. Please continue to do so. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Everybody on YouTube says stuff like that, but it really does help. If no one watches, if no one shares, if no one likes or comments, then it's hard to get any movement, move up the ranks. So please do that. I appreciate it. If there's any artists in particular you want me to speak to, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episodes themselves. Please feel free to reach out to me and give me your feedback, because at the end of the day, I am doing it for myself, but I'm doing it for myself for you as well. I want everybody to benefit from a passion project that I don't mind spending my free time doing. The time when I'm editing is really a joy. It's a lot of work, but I love it. I really like being behind the scenes, in control of the camera and in control of conversation, where it goes. I really enjoy the process of making these. I hope I'll continue to do so with your support. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll see you after 20 episodes. How about that? See you again after 20. All right? Cool. Peace.